Now we're all set up to have our player enter the car when it hits the E key. I'm going to go to the car script first, and if our player is close enough to the car that the prompt is showing, I'm going to give my player, that's the body that's just entered this area, a reference to the vehicle by writing body.vehicle equals self. That means that I'll be able to call functions on the vehicle from my player script, but only if I'm close enough to the car. Then if I move further away from the car, in the body exited script, I'm going to write body.vehicle equals null, which means that I won't have any vehicle available in my player script anymore once I've exited that section. I probably don't want to do this if the player's exiting the proximity of a different vehicle, so before I set the vehicle back to null, I'll check that body.vehicle is currently self and only set it back to null if the vehicle on that player right now is the current one. That way I could enter the proximity of heaps of different cars, and whichever one I've entered last, that will be the one that I enter when I press the E key. Now I want to go to the player script and create that variable vehicle, but I'm not going to set it to anything until I enter the proximity of a vehicle, and then the vehicle will give that to me. It will set which vehicle I should use when I enter. Then I'm going to come into my input function where we've checked that we've hit the escape key. I'm going to copy that block of code there, and instead of checking that I've hit escape, this time I'm going to check that I've hit the E key. Then what the code looks like for what happens when I hit the E key is first I check that that vehicle exists, because it starts off not existing, and it will go back to not existing if we leave the proximity of a vehicle. But if it does exist, that means I'm ready to enter a vehicle, and then I'll call vehicle.enter on that vehicle. And this is going to need a reference to me, the player. So I'm going to pass that enter function a copy of myself, and by self that's going to be the current player. The self means whoever owns this script. So now I've passed a copy of the vehicle to the player, and I've passed a copy of the player back to the vehicle when I press the E key. Then I just need a function called enter in my vehicle script, and that's what will be called when I press E. Let's add that function to our car script. It can be right down the bottom here. I'll leave the signal functions underneath it. I'm going to write func enter, which gives us a brand new function we can call, just like we're going to be doing from the player script. This is going to take one argument, which is the player that just called it. So now you can see why I called vehicle.enter self on the player. It's because there's going to be an enter function that accepts a player, and it'll be able to do stuff with that player. Just for now, let's print something to check that this is working. Let's print about to enter car. If that prints when I press E, then we know everything's working. I should also be able to walk away from the car and press E, and it should not print. Let's hit play. And if I press E when I see E enter, then you can see about to enter car popping up in the print output. But if I'm away from the car, then nothing happens when I press E. It only happens when I see that prompt. So can you work out all the stuff that's going to need to change in this enter function to swap between playing as a player to playing as a car? Well, this is a list of everything that's going to need to change when we change from being a player to being a car. We have to flag that the car is now controllable using our controllable variable that we created earlier. We're going to have to switch the current camera to the car's current camera. We're going to have to move our score from the player to the car. We're going to have to move our health from the player to the car, unless we want them to have separate health. We're going to have to hide that crosshair. We're going to have to show the vehicle HUD. Then we're going to have to start playing the engine sound. And finally, after doing all those things, we're going to be deleting the player. So congratulations if you managed to work out that we need to change all those things when we enter the car. So let's just pin this window and start checking things off the list. First, let's make our car controllable by writing controllable equals true. Then our process and input functions are going to run. Done. Let's switch to the chase camera by setting chase camera.current to true. Done another one. We're going to set the score of our car to the current score of the player by running score, that's our car's score, equals player.score, which is our player's score. As a first pass, we're going to do the exact same thing with our health. We're going to set the car's health to player.health. That's that one done. Now for the next two, we're going to need to grab a reference to the crosshair and the vehicle HUD because we haven't used them yet in our car script. So I'm going to scroll back to the top. We're going to drag in crosshair and make sure that that starts from root/main. And we're going to grab vehicle HUD and make sure that that one also starts from /root/main. While we're here, I've just remembered that we've moved the speed label and the needle. So even though we've got a reference to speed label and needle in our script, we're going to need to squash into that path vehicle HUD. Same here with the needle. This is now vehicle HUD/speedometer/needle. We'll be needing to update those paths because they've moved positions in the tree. But now that we've got a reference to the crosshair and the speedometer, we'll be able to go back down to our enter function and hide the crosshair by writing crosshair.hide and show the speedometer by writing vehicle HUD.show. That's those two done. Now we want to play the engine sound. I believe my engine is still called audio stream player, so I'll write audio stream player.play. And finally, we'll get our player that we've got a reference to, and we're going to completely delete the player by writing Q free. That's all the things we want to do there when our player enters the car. I'm going to tick them off the list. So let's play the game now and check that all of this works. I'm going to make sure that I've lost a bit of health first and collected a coin. And now, when I enter my car by pressing E, the camera's changed, I've got a speedometer, my score and my health have transferred over to the car, the crosshair's gone, it's all working really nicely. And when I hit escape when I'm in the car, the scene resets and I get back to being the player. But we want to handle exiting the car a little bit nicer than that. So we're going to create a second function and we're going to call this one exit. We've got one for enter and another func for exit. This one doesn't take a player because we haven't got any player yet to set anything on. This one is going to need to create a new player, and for that we need a reference way up the top of our script to the player scene. Alright, var player scene equals preload my player.tscene file, res player.tscene. And now in my exit function I'll be able to create a brand new player by writing var player equals player scene dot instantiate. And for now we're just going to set that player's global position to the very middle of the car, which is going to look a bit funny, but it'll do for a start. I'm going to write my current global position. And now we need to undo everything we did when we entered the car, which is going to start by making the car not controllable anymore by writing controllable equals false. Switching the camera back to the player we actually don't need to do because when we create a new player it's going to be switched to the current camera in the ready function, and in fact trying to set the camera here won't work because the camera won't exist until after the player has been made. So I'm going to uncheck that one, but we do want to set the player score to the current score of our car, and we want to set the player health to the current health of our car, so that instead of starting with 0 score and 100 health, it's going to inherit the score and health of our car. we want to show the crosshair again by writing crosshair.show. We want to hide the vehicle HUD by writing vehicle HUD.hide. Untick those two. We want to turn off the engine sound by writing audio stream player.stop. And then finally we want to add our player rather than delete the player. Going to add our new player to the scene with getTree.currentScene.addChild player. And we should be able to create that new player with a new score and a new health at the same position as our car. We just need to decide when to run this exit function, which I'm going to do when we press escape, because it doesn't matter now if we get stuck. We'll just be able to exit the car instead. So I don't need to write vehicle dot or anything in front of that function because I'm already in this script, and so I've already got access to the exit function. Let's check that we can now exit our car. I'm going to get into the car, take a bit of damage, and then press escape to get out of the car, and perfect! I've landed at the 0, 0 spot of my car with 80 health. Everything's back to normal, I've got my crosshair, there's no more speedometer. We just want to change what position the player spawns at. We'll do this the same way we did it when we spawned bullets. We're going to go to our car scene and add an empty node 3D and call it player spawn point. And then just position that player spawn point somewhere near the door of our car. It can be on the ground because it's going to spawn by our player's feet. Get a reference to it in our code, so go all the way back to the top, drag in player spawn point, and then down in our exit function, instead of setting it to the global position of the car, we're going to set it to player spawn point dot global position instead. Now the player should appear next to the car when we leave it. Perfect!